Mentally, do you think founders think big enough in New Zealand? Do you think they go after it as much?
I'll meet some founders who have big ambition and are pretty clear about where they want to get to. The pathway may
Does that track with the ones that are successful?
Yes, funnily it does. As a country, I think we find it easy to go with the norm and the flow rather than push against the tide and go, actually, we can build something super incredible, the best in the world in this space. So the first thing I quite often see is people with the passion, but not necessarily as a founder being confident enough just to go, actually, I can go out there and say, I'm going to build this the best thing on the planet for this, right?
Yeah.
Which, from a Xero perspective, we were uniquely positioned as the first ever cloud accounting solution on the planet, where all the other competitors were, generations behind. We were positioned to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it came down to everybody believing that ambition internally. Yeah, I think you can pick a niche and just build an island. So I remember sitting in one of the Xero board meetings, and it was kind of like, what's the island you can get onto where you could win all of those customers, right, and then own it and you couldn't get pushed off, right? And that's a great business on a global scale, right? Yeah, I think when you go on a journey like that, believing in the impossible becomes possible.
Yeah,
right?
Because you've worked with some successful CEOs and founders and over the years, what is it about them that has that ambition or that ability to see that future?
What I see is...
We look forward to seeing, what's next for you.
Well, Troy, as you know, I've just taken the CEO role at...
Welcome to the Startup Theatre podcast. This podcast is produced by Empire Films.
Hey everyone, I'm back.
Thank God.
The main co-host, the best co-host, the most arrogant co-host
You're the
back.
hostess with the mostest.
The hostess with the mostest
Yeah.
is back on Startup Theatre, and I'm
thank
joined by my good friend and co-host Adrian Muir. Welcome.
Thanks.
As you can see, the studio's gone back to
Yeah, I
a
did a good
boy's
job
apartment.
here. Do you know what happened? We had flowers and candles and went back to boys and their toys. I get it. Look, you've got to be comfortable, Troy.
We should be in the middle though. We should at least put a candle
I
there,
thought
maybe.
you would have brought back a Turkish rug or something.
Yeah, there's lots of Turkish rugs
What
over
did you
there.
bring? No, nothing.
I ran out of money though because I had to pay off Serge's hair bill, as you saw. And then it's been an amazing trip. A month travelling with my daughter around Europe.
How did that go?
Oh, phenomenal. She's a great traveller.
That's good.
She was great. There was one little wig out, and that was me. And so not her at all. One night that I had a few calls that I had to make back home in New Zealand at 2 and 3 in the morning, so I just didn't bother sleeping for the night. And then hadn't had coffee when we were trying to solve something really hard.
Did you have a tantrum and she had to
Yeah, and
sort
I
it
had a
out?
tantrum, and she was like, "Are you okay, Dad?" And I had to have a
Molly.
little walk away, and
Yeah.
I came back and said, "I'm sorry, honey, that was me."
Yeah.
But it was awesome, and it's funny how we don't reflect until we stop, and you realise,
true.
why do I not do this more often?
Yeah.
But I think it's been 10 years Talent Army. That's the first holiday I've ever been on where I was able to turn off and not worry about work.
And why? Why was that?
Because I have the best team that I've ever had.
Okay.
The team just takes care of everything now. I've got back now to work, and I'm there's no work for me to do because they're just like, no, we don't want you back. Well, welcome
nice
back.
feeling.
It's nice to have you, but we want to keep doing all the stuff that we've been doing, and so. Yeah, it's been great. And, we've got a guy coming up, Chris Teeling, on the podcast later who I hope talks about this because I know a little bit about his background and, how to have good teams around you and things. And, it's literally been the first time in my life that I've had that, and it's fantastic. It just took me 10 years.
Well, I mean, you can't start necessarily with everything that you need, but I think on reflection, I guess someone like Chris will sort of talk about that as well. But it sounds
from
like,
my point of view, though, it wasn't my team's faults over the years, the 10 years. They were all great. Every one of them were great. It was my fault because I wasn't able to let go, and I didn't ever fully let go until now. I'm just old and tired, so I have to let go.
That's very true.
And so, it was definitely none of the former team members, if they're listening to this, that, couldn't run the business while I was away. It was just I just wouldn't.
You were just
let
being
go.
a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I was a not a micromanager, but just it was my baby, and I was scared. And so, but this podcast now is my baby, and so
Great, it's all back to you. Keys are back in your hands.
if we go here, there was a competition.
Is this what you did on holiday?
To redesign the podcast logo. because Serge didn't like it. And I thought, there was this moment where I was looking up in Venice and just pondering life, and I thought, that should be the new logo.
To those who can't see and are listening, it's a picture of Troy looking like he's wearing his Commando green T-shirt.
Yeah.
And
some might say
like being
M2
almost,
model.
Yeah, what is it? Like being, yeah. slightly pensive, looking in. What are you doing?
I'm looking up. I was actually looking at
Street sign.
No, I was actually looking at an airplane, and my daughter took a photo. My daughter's a budding photographer, so she took many photos of
the
me.
moment.
Yeah, and so I've changed the logo just to be more about me.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense knowing you.
And so, what I'll do, let's vote on whether this logo should stay or not. So.
I think you're just going to love it.
Yeah, if you want to see this logo stay over the theatre masks, let us know. Adrienne next week is going to design the logo and what she wants the logo to be, and Serge, as you all know, will not get a choice on the logo, and so because it'll be something sponsored by some Turkish hair clinic, so that he can get his top up next. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to chatting with Chris, and so before we do that though, I'd love to do a quick bit. The Telenami sponsored startups under the spotlight.
That. Excellent.
Yeah, if you're good with that.
You've got 3?
I have 3.
Excellent. Let's
that
go.
I have found, heard of, been told about.
Yeah.
And so the first one, I actually know this guy, Stephen Baker. It's a company called Vendor Sage. Have you come across them at all?
Tell me about them.
So if you're tired of losing track of vendors, auto renewals, or random like SaaS charges, Vendor Sage is your smart vendor management platform that's built for startups and scale-ups that want to grow without the chaos. And so you can get full visibility into who owns what, where that money's going, and when contracts are up. There's no spreadsheets, no surprises, just clarity, control, and cost savings.
Class.
So head to vendorsage.com to book a demo and take control of your vendor stack today. This is a Kiwi guy, Stephen Baker, who's now in Australia, and so really like that one. Tether, have you come across Tether?
Tell me a little bit about them.
Tether, Brandon Van Blurk, awesome guy, South African now Kiwi guy, and so he really, I think he lived in a really cold, leaky house or cold, damp house in New Zealand.
Sure, he's not a Wellingtonian.
There's a few of them, and he just was like, hey, there's got to be something, there's got to be a way to fix this, and so he came up with Tether. And so if you want to make your building smarter, healthier, and more energy efficient, you can use Tether, which is a Kiwi company using real-time data to transform indoor environments across Aotearoa. And so Tether's sensors and software give you live insights into temperature, air, quality, CO2 and more, helping schools, offices and landlords create better spaces for people on the planet. And so whether you're chasing carbon goals or just want healthier buildings, Tether makes it easier. So go check them out at Tether, which is tether.co.nz, and start breathing easier today. And final one is a company called Mutu, which is Ben Redwood is the CEO there. I have had lots of people talk to me about this one. Actually, Barney used to be one of our clients at Conquer Construction Management Software. I think he's advising them now too, and he was talking to me about them, and I was like, I feel like everyone's talking to me about this company, so I need to shout them out. And so Mutu, which is MUTU, if you've got stuff you're not using and you want to borrow gear without buying it new, Mutu is this new Kiwi sharing platform that lets you rent out or borrow just about anything from like bikes and cameras to tools and camping gear.
Interesting.
And so, it's all about reducing waste, saving money and making smarter choices for the planet. And so you can own less and access more and get paid for the stuff that you already have.
Brilliant.
So basically like Uber for all your shit around your house, right? And so download the Mutu app or head to mutu.co.nz and start sharing smarter today.
Love it. Okay, that's great.
Really cool startups. As we always say, like Adrienne and I really want you to go off and try them out. Jump onto their website, download their app and give them a whirl. We want them to get customers. We want to grow these Kiwi startups into unicorns and beyond here. And the way we can do that is we can get behind some of these.
Totally. And actually really good problems being solved there, right?
Indeed. All right, let's go to our crafted ad break before our speaker starts and get ready and let's go and get Chris and let him in.
Let's get him in.
Today's guest is brought to you by Vanta. Whether you're starting or scaling your company's security program, demonstrating top-notch security practices and establishing trust is more important than ever. Vanta automates compliance for global frameworks like ISO 27001 and SOC 2, saving you time and money, helping you build customer trust. Over 8,000 global companies like Atlassian, Dovetail, Sharesies and Flossy all use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. I actually had dinner with the whole Vanta team, and I knew instantly that they would be the sponsor on the podcast. They just genuinely care about startups. And to make it go even one better, they've actually decided that my audience gets a special offer of $1,000 USD off from Vanta. All you have to do is go to vanta.com/startup theatre and enjoy your $1,000 USD off now.
Cool. So, hey, thanks for joining us, Chris, on the podcast. You're here with myself and Adrian. But
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello,
Looking
Adrian.
comfortable?
Yeah.
Good
Nice to meet you in the flesh for
Yeah,
the
you
first
too,
time.
mate. Yeah. It's always funny when I feel like I know someone already and then I get to meet them for the first time and walk in and shake their hands. But good to meet you, mate. I followed you, as I said, for a long time. And so you've been in the ecosystem, for doing some good things for a long time with some big brand names. I guess for those of the people that, unlike myself and Adrian, who don't know you, who are you and what have you done? You're obviously a Wellington lad, as we mentioned.
We love that. I love that.
Yeah. So Wellington lad, born and bred, spent a lot of time overseas working in finance, investment banking and different things, and then finally came back to NZ. Found my way back to my heart, which was always technology and things that you can achieve with that. And probably most recently, over the last 13 years, have helped build 3 successful technology companies.
You say successful, they're quite successful.
Yeah. Well, no, they're all learnings on the pathway, and some are still on their way to, being giants in the world. But yeah, there's like three successful tech companies. But importantly, as a builder inside it, and a coach, mentor, executor next to the management team, rather than being the founder inside, which is what I find is really great, and what I've found founders often miss. That they need to have next to them to be truly successful.
So true, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you specifically go after that? Like, was that something you strategically planned? Like, I can be really good in that role.
Yeah. I think it's from actually having a background in consulting as well as as strategy and execution, and also being able to naturally join the dots of what's coming up in the future and what needs to happen to get there, and be able to explain that to people with ambition and what needs to happen and what do they need to do to help drive the trajectory of a business. And that's kind of like my superpower. As well as storytelling and how you explain that to the business, the investors, the market and things. So that kind of played to my strengths, which was recognised, as when I was in Xero on the exec leadership team there, scaling it for 8 years and flying close to the sun with Rod for much of that on his shoulder was the opportunity to do that was really unique. So.
And Green Button before that, and then Lawview Post with some other directorships and advisory stuff.
Yeah. So one of my other passions in life, beside obviously being a family man and relationship, and having a bit more time now where you can focus on health and travel and longevity, has also been looking at New Zealand and how we grow New Zealand's tech sector, and then also how we help people in the country have more prosperity, which was another one I did alongside as I was helping the guys at Lawview, was helping scale Simplicity KiwiSaver, which in sort of 8 years has gone from sort of twinkling in Sam Stubbs' eye to 8 billion under management, and some of the things we've achieved
and also
there.
coming together with the tech sector too,
right?
Yeah,
and that helped being on the investment committee around that, helping form like a private equity function and investment there, and some of this cool stuff we're doing with build to rent for our younger generation kids as they come through, where instead of being an economy that has a property market with an economy attached to it, we can build a country where these kids can not have to build wealth by buying property. They can build wealth by investing in growing tech companies 100%. Or whatever they want to do.
And as an Aussie, right, for me, like that, I was getting 12% superannuation before I moved here, and then I
didn't know you were an Aussie.
Oh,
okay. Stop fooling that.
Strong Wellingtonian accent he's got there, actually.
So deep.
To that.
You don't get this good looking and brown without being Australian, mate.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm from Melbourne, so we don't have a thick accent. But I moved here, and I remember I was getting 12% KiwiSaver, which was like standard or something in the last company I was in. And then when I got here, they were like, "You get 3%," and I was like, "How the hell are you meant to how the kids right now are meant to not worry about their future? When you got 3% KiwiSaver, and literally it's hard to get into a house." So there's some.
It is a different way. I mean, years ago when I was at NZX, one of our catchphrases was, "She'll be right is not all right," trying to get people to focus on not just, you've got your mother's house, or you bought a house and she'll be right. It's about how you start looking at everything. And at that point, KiwiSaver wasn't even a mandate.
Yeah, and probably one of the greatest challenges as a country is I just spent a bunch of time in Australia with the chief investment officers of the super funds over there, encouraging them to invest in later stage high-tech companies in New Zealand, so we can retain some of those countries longer, and build it like a Xero, maybe listed on like the NZX, ASX, and have all the greatness that comes from that, better schools and hospitals from the taxes and jobs for our future generations, as opposed to them sort of swimming into the US with US VCs and getting sold. So a big part of that is the Aussies, that on average have got a couple 100,000 in KiwiSaver. Ours is sort of typically less than 50, retirement. So big delta there for us as a country.
So you mentioned the tech sector, right? Like you've been responsible for some growth in some big companies, right? So Green Button obviously was a great success story, and then Xero. I think you were at Xero, you helped Xero go from 400 million to 15 billion or something. If I'm
in market cap, yeah.
And then obviously Lawview and Simplicity and others now. And then you just said to help the tech ecosystem. I guess if you were, let's not say the Prime Minister because you can't get anything done as the Prime Minister, but if you were responsible for saying, all right, we need to make some changes, mentally and physically, what are the things? Mentally, do you think founders think big enough in New Zealand? Do you think they go after it as much?
I think I'll meet some founders who have big ambition and are pretty clear about where they want to get to. The pathway may
Does that track with the ones that are successful?
Yes, funnily it does. It does. So as a country, I think we find it easy to go with the norm and the flow rather than push against the tide and go, actually, we can build something super incredible, the best in the world in this space. So the first thing I quite often see is people with the passion, but not necessarily as a founder being confident enough just to go, actually, I can go out there and say, I'm going to build the best thing on the planet for this, right? Yeah. Which, from a Xero perspective, we were uniquely positioned as the first ever cloud accounting solution on the planet, where all the other competitors were, generations behind. We were positioned to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it came down to everybody believing that ambition internally, right? And then setting a big enough goal of what that looks like in people's minds. As a country, you'd often get knocked back about it. I remember when I first came into Xero as the advisor around growth and what we were doing, and not focusing on teams and executing or running an operational thing, but actually what do we need to think about in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months that's going to slow us down, right? And having the bandwidth and permission from Rod and the board to actually do that, around capital, priorities and people, and really build that business. So the thing there has been, where the ambition came out, and what was it? It was I remember going in for an interview with some of the management, couple of the senior guys and the board, and it was kind of so what's your main thing you're going to do? And the statement around the table was, well, we're going to get Xero to be worth more than $1 billion, and we're going to get to 1 million subscribers. Okay, all right, so that sounds good. So one of the directors went, why $1 billion? And then obviously on the board we had a famous individual who'd started Trade Me, and we looked over and we go, because then we were worth more than that got sold for. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be a scientific number. It's where did it come from? And 1 million subscribers, there was 70,000 small businesses at the time. So that was a big delta. And then my first few days in the business, walking around to some of the leaders and some of the people in the teams and getting to understand where they're at, they were like, oh my God, the last 10,000, we just scrambled over the line for that before we had to report to the market. And it was so hard to get there. It was so hard. You go, yeah, but we're going to get to a million. And they're like, so they were sort of people sitting there going, what the hell is this guy doing? What's he walking around doing these things? But it was like, okay, what do we got to do to get there? And it was, we started, sat down and put together what was called the Grow Fast plan. We went out and we went, we need probably 70 million of capital or something to do that. Sat in the board meeting, went, oh my God, we're 40 times revenue on a public market. This is never going to happen again. So we doubled the amount of money we took. And we went and started executing that plan we needed to build at. And it was just like, how do you go from 10,000 and a quarter to 20,000 and a quarter to whatever? And we went, okay, well, we're getting to 1 million. How do you, and as we got closer, we went, oh my God, now we're doing, we're adding 100,000 customers. Now how do you go to 100,000 customers a quarter rather than a year? And it all starts to build. And then what happens in the teams and the people internally is they get a belief, and they start to see the momentum, and they see the decision making starting to happen at the senior team. They see the capital coming in, they see the talent coming in. So you just create this flywheel of growth. But at the starting point of it has got to be that ambition. And as a country, we don't really set that ambition as a country around what we could do. The tech sector is $10 billion of exports. I've met with one of the ministers the other day about how do you get it from 10 to 20 billion? How do you do it in under 4 years, right, for that? And what it really needs is for us as a country to, bring more capital in, which lots of people are doing great work around. The next part is how do you get more later stage capital into our big winners? And I've talked to 8 founders around that sort of area, and they're like, oh my God, if I could have patient long-term capital coming in from later stage investors that were like super funds or Aussie supers or sovereign funds, that meant I could build my business and have more autonomy around it rather than fast-paced capital sort of out of some of the US VCs and get captured into that, especially when what I've heard from some of the founders and have experienced myself is when you've got some of these big VCs, and like one I've been doing some work with, they've got over 1,000 companies in their portfolio.
Wow.
Right?
Are they American? Are they American?
Yeah, US, one of the biggest in town, right? And there's some great stuff that comes with it. It's like what we were trying to do was we were going, we need to look at our pricing, right? And this was at Lawview, and I remember sitting there with one of the guys, and we're like, okay, shall we have a chat to our VC? And because they're quite large, and they have a PE arm as well. And they went, well, what kind of questions do you want to answer around it? And we go, well, have you got someone? They go, in the how we help you with go-to-market, we've got a team of 60 people.
What?
60 people. And you're like, we think, and one of the team went, we think we actually could be creating a whole new category. So we jumped on a phone call, and there's this person who just creates categories, and then we went through it, and they went, no, maybe not a whole new category. But for this pricing one, we were sitting there, and they went, we'll do a little project for 3 weeks with you and stuff. And it was, they put 2 guys who were ex-Simon Kucher on, right? And I remember running the pricing stuff that we had to do at one stage at Xero later stage, and it was a $900,000 consulting engagement. And here you are, you got these guys for free. So that comes with great benefits, but then I think often eyes wide open what some of the some of the local founders don't realise, and some of the later stage founders now know really well and share across their colleagues and things is that you're going into a portfolio of some of these guys, and they've got like 1,000 companies sitting in there. If you're a Canva, right, you're sitting in the top 2 or 3, or Airbnb or something, and boy, you're getting a lot of love and everything. If you're in the top quartile, it's like you're doing really, really well. And remember, these guys now are sophisticated, using AI tools and everything. So your Salesforce.com is being sucked out every month and into their big system, and it's running through benchmarking against everything. And so the GP can have the call with you and work out what's going well and kick you where it's not, or if that's their style. But the thing is that if you're in a sort of niche market where potentially you're not going to grow fast, but you could build a world-leading company a bit slower, you're sort of in that zone where it's you're not top quartile. Okay, well, for my portfolio, I need to get you out, and probably I want a 3x in under 4 years, or 3x in 3, just to help the portfolio. I'm not necessarily going to carry you right through to crossover like a Canva into listing, which means our companies get pulled in there, and unless you're like some staggering outlier, the potential is that you're going to end up owned by an Adobe or a Microsoft or something like that as a strategic exit, or rolled up as a PE side of things. Whereas what we could have had is another, say, 10 Xeros or Rocket Labs that had come through over a couple of decades, but they just needed a bit more patient capital. So really, really see that as key for New Zealand. The other is at a government and leadership level, is really starting to, because we're actually a pretty small country if you travel the world and worked in North America, and so if you sit there and you go, how do you win? How do you play to win? You can only pick a couple of playing fields you want to be on, and as a country, we all like getting along okay. We can be a bit timid about giving encouragement or feedback. I don't know if you've ever been in a business meeting with people from Russia or even Dutch.
I love
the
it.
Dutch,
I
and
love
it's
it.
like
Tell me direct. I love it.
I work with
Yeah.
external brokers. They're pretty brutal.
I love it when
I
I don't have to worry about what someone's thinking, but it's not the Kiwi way, that's for sure.
It is. I was just travelling through Croatia about 4 weeks ago, and we were talking about cultures and things with a group that we were spending some time with, and they were like, you know what, we find it's almost rude when you tell me something because you think that's what I want to hear, as opposed to I just want to know what you're thinking. And we're like, oh, they go, you Kiwis, you're very strange to being up front, but that kind of rolls into our culture a little bit around tall poppy and backing winners, and I think one of the key things as a nation and as a government we could do is pick like the 5 areas that we think we could go really, really strong in.
What do you think they are? Because
well, for
Judith
one,
Collins thinks it's space, obviously, right?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I was involved in something recently, and we had some contact and dealings with the Omani Sovereign Fund and a couple of the space tech companies here. And they were just looking for opportunities, right? And they need a vehicle to be able to, they go, we need to put a couple $100 million to work to make it worthwhile, but And one of the people I was working with, we put something together on the New Zealand tech space industry, and it was like first in the world to have a commercial spaceport. And I was talking to one of the guys in government recently involved in all the things they've done around, global permissions to be able to get into space. And then unlike, say, Pharmac, where it's like, everyone goes, well, we have to test the drugs ourselves. They're like, well, we used to use the US framework and and so it's all geared to move fast. So space is like this wow, it's just sitting there ready to go. So obviously some of the things we have around agri, from that side of things, I think we've done some really cool stuff around robotics and agri that we have there. Amazing stuff coming out of deep tech and universities that we're inventing around food and agri that we just don't have the capital to move them to be winners fast enough. And then the high tech industry for me is one as well that I think we should focus on, but it's more about what are the 5, and if the government can homogenise the effort from government around regulation, Invest New Zealand, focusing in and attracting capital and showing that we're the best in the world, we can be the best in the world at these 5 things. We've got an unnatural advantage across what we could do around it. Around say one of the things is renewable energy is one of my 5, right? and you sit there and you go, well, if they do that, and all the people in government are working on that, all the capital starts swimming in that way, where offshore talent comes here, as well as the business builders are here, and we've got a brand.
New Zealand has a brand. They have an identity in terms of who they are.
Yeah.
I was interviewing some guys the other day who are moving. Trump's America is great for recruitment in New Zealand, right? And so I get a lot of people that are like, I'm sick of Trump. Just put, I'm not sure if you saw this morning, but he just put himself as Superman in a thing on the White House, and I was like, this is great for recruitment. Thank you, Trump. But so I interview a lot of guys that are coming out from the US to come here, and the question I get a lot is, in the tech industry especially, they're like, what is New Zealand's niche? What is the domain? And I keep saying we don't really have one. Like it's so homogenized over here, like even and the roles that you'll do in those companies aren't going to be niche either. Like the Americans, like you talk about a pricing guy, there's probably a pricing guy that's only for $20 million ARR companies in fintech, and he does that for a job his whole life, right, in America, because there's so much breadth there.
Yeah.
But it would be so good for New Zealand to have a brand, have a niche. Like I think it'll support the ecosystem so much more if the VCs know what we're doing, the people out of university come out and they go, all right, this is New Zealand. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on that.
So fintech, that's sitting there, obviously from the Xero side of things, what we see is, I remember, what was it, sitting at Xero, we had a thing which was, because part of it is about hiring people, and we were doubling in scale every year, well, more than doubling in number of small businesses, doubling in sort of run rate revenues, but also in the number of people in the business, right? And I remember sitting there at one stage, and we had this thing some people would talk about, which was like A's higher A's, B's higher C's kind of thing. Yeah. And one of my ones was like, if you could hire someone that you'd work for, like they're a good fit. Like if you could work with them, that's a great fit. But we would be bringing talent in at such a pace. And we had one thing that was sometimes when you're building a business, one of the things is you have to work out when to slow down as well.
True.
Like as a team, it was kind of like, whoa, okay, we're getting a bit ahead of our skis. Yeah. And some of that happened sort of during the ZERP cap raising stuff that we saw with some of the businesses here as well. Everyone's been forced to get really back over their skis around headcount investment and metrics and things. But we were sitting there, and it was like you don't quite know sometimes how it hits you. And I remember walking around, and I was meeting some people. I couldn't find a meeting room. In the Xero building just down here, it was like there's no meeting. Why is there no meeting? No, it shouldn't. And I kind of have this thing of like, we should all be just everyone moving really fast. And we were still at the stage then where we were. Probably the majority of people really were there for the purpose and things before you get to sort of 500 plus staff, and it becomes more people there for their role and what they want to do, not their life. Yeah. And you'd have Saturdays, Sundays, the offices would kind of be full. And I'm like, can't find a meeting room. So I went, oh, well, and we had a thing where like, I'd quite often just wander around to find out what was going on in the business, and I'd go sit in people's meetings, which could have been a bit disturbing actually.
So this is a knock, hey, I'm just coming in.
Like if it was like a team meeting or something, not like if someone's having a one-on-one.
I assume you'd knock on the door and say, do you mind if I join?
Versus
just, I'm coming into this meeting.
Well, I did a couple where I just do a drop in, because it was like, we had something we'd been talking about 2 weeks before, and like, hey, you guys getting on? And you might stay for 10 minutes and go. But so I started going like, what's going on? And I'd ask people, and they were like, oh, I'm recruiting. Oh, I'm recruiting. Right. And then I went through and I went, okay, so if everyone who's a team leader or a manager, and then I went around and asked them, how much time you spend? And they go, how's this other stuff we meant to do? I don't know, I'm recruiting. So we just went, and I remember sitting there, the sort of 3 or 4 of us would get together, have a conversation about the biggest things to sort out each week. And I was like, we should have like and someone went, hiring first. I go, no, we'll call it a pause. But we press pause, and everyone's like, why is that? Is it because, is it economic? Is it because of funding? And no, you guys just need time to...
Well, it's time
get people bedded into the business and do that.
Jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I think a big thing as a founder is, especially where you've got teams overseas and things, is to find a way to manage by walking around until it's too big to do that.
Yeah.
It's just so important to get the sense of that. So yeah.
Interesting.
So that was interesting, and then and then back to the A's hire A's and B's and things, and if you're hiring great talent and building great businesses, it creates great opportunities. And you think about fintech as an opportunity, and what Xero created around it with the ecosystem. And I remember sitting there, and there was two fantastic. We didn't even know what product marketers were at one stage. So people look in from the outside and they'd go, "Oh my God, it's just like so epically. You guys are doing everything amazing," because everything would go out so beautifully. Polished, and the Xero cons were like world class, like a Salesforce conference or something. But inside it would be what we'd call managed chaos quite often. And but I remember sitting there and sort of, you bring the right people in and what's going on, and we didn't know what product marketing was. So we got an American in, and they sort of helped us do some of that. And then the two of the best people in marketing came over, and they went, "Would you let us go on a sabbatical?" And I went, "How do you mean? What do you think the reaction would be if we asked if we could do this?" And I went, "Oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah, we should absolutely do it. And in fact, we should sponsor the fintech thing." And it was Creative HQ doing their first ever fintech, and of course these two amazing women, along with one of their partners, created Sharesies. So they never came back after their sabbatical. Which is a great disappointment. But and we got Henry out of the same one and things. So sorry,
but that's part of the building the ecosystem, right? Like if you're lucky enough to ride the lift up, is send it back down filled with information so that others can grow, right? And
and that's directly those people, because they went out, they did that, they had the networks. Because we'd have board meetings and investors coming through, but it wasn't like hidden behind closed doors. So they had some of those relationships and bump into people. So it just gave them the mechanism to be able to run with it, right?
They would have the ambition in their DNA.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right? So they would have seen how you communicated to everybody with the ambition, vision, manifestation, whatever you want to call it, right? And if you think about how successful they've probably instilled that into their own companies.
Yeah, I think when you go on a journey like that, believing in the impossible becomes possible.
Yeah,
right?
I'm curious to dig into that, because like I work with a lot of early stage founders, right? And it's funny, like you can spot the one straight away that you're like, right, I'm going to tie my horse to that because I know that that's about to take off. And they're the ones that literally are like, they believe it, and they know that it's impossible what they're trying to do, but they know that it's fucking hard, right? But it's just a mantra that they've repeated so many times now that they just believe it. They're believing it themselves, and because they believe it themselves, other people start believing it. I guess like because you've worked with some successful CEOs and founders and over the years, like what is it about them that has that ambition or that ability to see that future?
Yeah, what I see is the real test is when I think about it is what's Reid Hoffman call it? He calls it founder problem fit.
Yeah.
Right, so it's kind of like that. When you talk to them, they viscerally have a reason that they need to solve this for, but then they can really articulate how they're going to do it in a unique way that's going to, put them ahead of the pack, or get them deliver something really special, right? So that's what I see. And the second kind of thing I see is you either see the founders really great and natural at networking, and building relationships, which will often turn up as they're often the first salesperson, or if they're technical, they just know what are the 3 or 4 things that are magical that you got to build into an experience, right? Like with from a Xero perspective, you had like the unlock of Bankrec or something. So you see that they have that capability, and then I think the other part is they're really clear about the 1 or 2 things that either a blind spot or they need support around. And the really good founders who go big are great at building a team around them where you have sort of peaks in the areas that you think you need at the time. That either takes a bit of weight away from you or fills the gap for you, and not having the ego that makes you feel like that makes you less of a leader. From that side of things is what I see as people do critically really, really well.
Can I just ask you something on that? Because I see it from the perspective, and I'm sure you probably see this as well, Adrian. I see founders that really struggle to let go because it's their baby and they are across everything and they struggle to give some hats away. And I keep telling them, you're wasted doing 19 things poorly when you can do one or two things really well, and they really struggle to hear that or do that. Like, how would you take someone that's doing too much now and say, look, this is your lane, this is what you should be doing, go for it?
This actually comes back to the bit around what I've typically done, like COO at Green Button, which was so Scotty, the founder, could go live in the US.
Yep.
Even though, gosh, we were living in our office was actually a little condo, and we were driving around in an old Mustang to places like we'd go down to like Pixar was a customer and NASA was a customer.
Steve Jobs tenure? Yeah.
Well, we'd so we would drive down to Emeryville to the Pixar, which for me was like, it was like kid in the candy store because I loved all the animation and movies and stuff. And we'd pull up in this old car, we'd wander in, and it was like people thought they were meeting people. We had a company with thousands of people, and we had like 25 of us, and we were doing it hard, right? You're sitting there, sometimes you didn't make payroll, for yourselves. But like you're just sitting there trying to work, turn up and look bigger than you are. But as a founder, it was kind of like you think about what some of them have done, and what I've seen is they are comfortable having someone next to them, which is what I've done, that can play across multiple fields. So it's kind of you could be across kind of where are we heading. You could be across how do we tell the story, how do we get out into the market, you're meeting with investors, we'd do a couple of hundred investor meetings, and one year we did 300 investor meetings when I led the delisting from New Zealand onto the ASX, right? But you get nuggets from every meeting, and as a founder, how do you get every single nugget back into the business? So being able to have someone that's kind of like your trusted person to work beside as a business builder, who isn't at the time the VP of sales or the VP of customer or something, is actually a really good way to not kind of clone yourself, but give you a bit more bandwidth in it. And then the other is, because then you can kind of go, could you go and move on that? And then the other thing was, like, you'd sit there and you go, gosh, we're just not sales. We're not going to double sales again with a particular person running it, or marketing's not working. It's kind of like, and that's it. You sit there and you rehearse how you're going to have the conversation about it, and while they're thinking about some other fire that's going to be put out, you're kind of pipelining someone out of the US or something to come in, or someone to come into that role with them. So I think it's being intelligent about having someone that helps you get more bandwidth as you're growing. I've seen a couple of the businesses do it really well, where it's like a partner working in the business, or there's a couple of them exchanging roles and things. But that's kind of a secret to it. And then rebuilding your management team before it tanks your growth is the other one I've seen. It's really important.
Talk me through that in a bit more detail. Like, I'm passionate about this as well, right? Because I think you kind of need to rebuild your SLT team every, stage. Like, there's some people that just don't continue to get to the next level, and you kind of have to bring out some people and put them in. But what do you, like, when you're putting together an SLT, like, what are you thinking about? Is it the larger team? Is it individuals? Is it more? Well,
I think firstly it's got to be that the team is complementary to what you're trying to achieve, what your biggest problems are at the time. And then it's and you can't switch everybody out every 2 years, because it becomes a little bit of a nightmare. But at Xero we must have gone through and had 5 leaders of go-to-market over maybe 7 years, and it was CMO and chief sales, and then we went, does that not work? Maybe we should have a CRO. Maybe we should. That doesn't work.
Is it a fail fast type situation though? Like when you're kind of like, got to bring somebody else in, let's give it a year, or you just, when do you know?
It's kind of, well, firstly, at the interview process, you'd hope to know, but probably the hardest people I've ever found to recruit at a large scale when you're an attractive place to be is probably head of marketing and sales, because they're so good at selling themselves. Like,
Right.
I remember one person who flew in to become like head of marketing, and
From
they
Australia?
sit in there, no, from the US, and you're sitting there, and they kind of left the room, and you sit there and you go, is it a good or a bad thing that at the end of the meeting, at the end of the interview, you kind of go, oh my God, everyone in the room feels like they want to marry the person and have their children.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's kind of funny. You go, that's probably not the style that fits with our culture and things, but what you are trying to do is find the person who knows how to get you to the next point. If I work with leaders out of the US in various businesses, and they're real crisp, right? They'll just go, I am your sales leader from 5 to 20 US, right? And then I'm out. Or like, I'll come in at 15 and this, but I'm more, 50 to 250, take you across the listing. So really crisp and clear on where and they're comfortable at stepping out and being leveled down, right? So it's kind of, so one is making sure that as you're scaling, right, you're trying to help some of the breakout people who are just incredible get to the next stage, like with a couple of the founders of Sharesies and things. The other, and see how far people can go. So you're always backing your own people, but at some points you go, actually, to crack this particular thing, we need a person who looks like this. It could be like listing in the US or something. You go, well, it's going to need to be a US CFO coming in and things like that. And you just make the call. Everybody should be comfortable around it, and you go, what would you like to do next, and how do we make it as easy for you as possible to take a step in what you want to do next, as opposed, internally, as opposed to still holding on to this title that you had at 50 staff when we're now like 600.
we don't get that in New Zealand, that sometimes you need to drop down in title to like find the right opportunity. Like, a lot of Kiwis just really struggle with that. And, I'm like, shit, it's the opportunity. It's not the title.
100%.
Who cares if you see this and see that, if you drop down to a director or a VP. If you're boarding a rocket ship that's going to surpass you and, the next one, don't worry about it. But
my thing I just loved was someone who just loved putting their hands around a problem and going, oh, you mean I could take this whole new product from scratch to market? And you go, it's like a startup inside the business. And they're like, holy hell, could I tell you how much I hate management? And you go, great, okay. And they voluntarily jump across and go, how long till you find someone new? So it's just having that brave conversation. But when you're really skyrocketing, you are bringing more talent in continuously across the business, which is something at Xero that was one of the secrets that we had. So it was kind of like always knowing what the next 18 months, the big things were that we needed to do, the priorities across the business to crunch on. We got enough capital in the door to put it across, and then it was the people that you needed. But really importantly, from the board as well. I think refreshing the board ahead of what you needed next, as we went from one chair who got it listed on the New Zealand Exchange to like a Chris Liddell coming in, so sitting in meetings with Chris and seeing how he chaired, who's ex CFO of Microsoft, and to having Graham chairing and what he brought to the business, who was the first CFO of Salesforce, right? So, you start to see what really great looks like. Yeah.
I mean, you see what great looks like. I think some of the sort of situations that we've probably seen as well as what not great looks like too. So I think in terms of some of our early listeners and our listeners are just at the very start of their journeys in so many ways, I've definitely got it wrong. One of the things I think with what you're talking about too is that common thread around keeping the culture in place as you're scaling really quickly. So the types of people you're hiring as you're sort of scaling. I know that when I did it, I sat on the first 60 interviews and probably a little, just to make sure that we talked a little bit about what was going on in the future and stuff. Yeah. What's sort of the advice that you'd give to them, people as they're going through that scaling process? Like, you might get it wrong and you might hire a couple of duds,
Yeah.
That happens. But also you might hire great, right?
Yeah, and pull the pin early with your
That's
instinct. So I think the DNA around the founding team, around culture and how that shows up is always really strong. It might be there might be someone who leads with it or someone who doesn't talk about it that much, but they're usually the barometer. Like when we built the Xero Australian business, and we had Chris Ridd, who took it from sort of 12 people to 250 in Australia and just mega scaled the customer base and everything. He'd do he did the final interview for everyone, right? And we were like, at some stage you need to stop meeting every single person. He's like, no, it's like, that's what I'm going to do.
He had a famous coffee cup test.
Yeah, his famous coffee cup test. It was
him and I had some fun tweets.
Yeah, it was like people came. I remember doing an interview after that podcast came out, and the person was staring at their coffee cup, and I go, "Don't worry, I'll take it to the kitchen. I'm not going to make. Don't stress about it. I just want to know how good you are."
He said on a podcast that his test was that he would check to see if they'd offer to take the coffee cup back to the kitchen, and he said that was like a trigger for him. If they didn't offer, he didn't feel good about them.
Oh, that's
and then a few people called him out on Twitter because it blew up on this podcast, and that became huge news for a few days.
Yeah,
that's
but I think you'll find, something that lets you get an empathic kind of feel for whether someone's going to fit into culture. But
are you telling? Because what I'm always curious about is that obviously culture changes, right? As the company grows, like it's inevitable that you can't keep the same founder mentality. Like, and it really is that inflection point for me is 500. Like within 500 people, you can still feel and hear the original stories and people. But once it gets past 500, it infinitely changes, a lot. And I'm always conscious when I'm talking to startups or clients, I'm always like, tell people what to expect. Like, tell people what's coming so that they're not like, oh, shit, who moved my cheese? Everything's changed all of a sudden. But always tell them, when we get to this level, this is what it's going to look like. When we get to this level, it's going to look like. Did you guys ever do any work on that? Or was it something that just organically, because it grew so fast, you couldn't?
If I think about what we did at Lawview.
Yeah.
So, like with Lawview, the legal tech software for in-house teams, right?
There are 250 people now, Lawview?
Less than that, I think. Sam can correct me, but less than that. But we went from sort of 30 to 100 really quickly, and we had an amazing people person we brought in who kind of carried woo. Right, and was engaging everyone involved in culture fit and how that happened, and we brought them in. We let the teams know that as we were going to build up, things were going to change. We got more people remote and not and local, and it's Tauranga versus not Tauranga. So an amazing effort by Sam around what he was doing to keep everybody connected, right? Bringing everybody in for on sites, once a year to be immersed in the culture and the DNA. As a team, sitting down and going, actually thinking about the values and going, how do we really push the values at the all hands, and the awards around the behaviour we wanted and you wanted to see of supporting each other. How do you get the values and how you operate as a business into the remote teams. And we went, actually, why don't we just have remote catch-ups where one team was doing it on a Friday, and it's like everyone who's remote got together to talk about their week, because they all could then talk about it from like a perspective of not being with people, and it was a connection for them. To things like one I did at Xero, which was we sort of really pushed applying values to making decisions. So across a number of the businesses, help them governance in different places now. So like they go, got this really hard call to make, and you go, well, sit around the table with the other people involved and go, if we put our values in front of us and applied those, well, what would that tell us the right answers would be? And if you thought about something like a Xero, where one of the things was champion, and we didn't sort of have values and principles. It was like just values for external, internal. It was kind of champion meant being a champion internally around the way you worked and things. externally it was like being a champion of small business because they don't have a voice in like Wellington at government or anything. And we were talking about the big push that we had for creating the national business number, which was essential, to get, because then we could sort out GST and, all kinds of things for small businesses. And we're going, well, actually, this is the most important thing as a business we need to do now. And you go, well, if we think about champion, like, this is the one thing we can do to help New Zealand small businesses, which is where we've grown from. And you go, yeah, okay, we need to make sure that's on the list, right? So you start using values as a way that you make
critical
decisions.
Yeah.
And that really actually sometimes brings it to life for exec teams and other teams across the business.
So they're not just motivational posters on the wall?
Not at all.
Yeah, or an award or something. It's kind of like that's how we roll a bit. And then as people come in and they
did that make you look at your values closely and really like try and say, well, are these legitimate values? Because otherwise, I know a lot of people that redo their values and they'll go take acid and Burning Man or whatever they do and come out with 4 words and they're the words that I'm being facetious here.
It's true, right? You'll see a lot of people, but I think that to your point, it takes a lot of the heat out of even your personal conversations, because sometimes it can feel one-on-one. If you actually go back to your values, and let's just say a lot of them can be respect or responsibility, and rather than saying, well, you haven't delivered on that, say, listen, mutually, we know our values are around respect. How was that respectful in that meeting when you did X, Y, Z or whatever? Like, I think I made a decision to leave a company based on standing at a coffee machine, having a really rubbish meeting, looking up and it said, we have integrity. And I thought, no, you don't. And left. I mean, I'm quite a values-based individual, and like you, I like the idea of being in a company which is quite values-based.
Yeah, and one of the other things we did around scaling it was the inductions that we'd do, right? At Lawview, we got this sort of inductions up and going, and it was kind of like come in and do this, and they got to experience, oh my God, the culture of Tauranga and where it was born, and even if they were from offshore or something, coming in, if there's team meetings on it, their get together it's like get immersed in how the team rolls. And then at Xero we actually had we'd do all the new joiners would go into their induction, and we'd have leaders go in and do the presentations, but we'd kind of gamified it a bit because everyone would score how good it was, and it was like who could do the best, who did the best one.
Totally.
Like the CFO was always like, I just have to talk about this and like doing it in someone else's expense, and then Philip, who was like head of design and where did we come from and all those sorts of things, he and I would compete on who could do the most motivational one, but it was kind of fun, right? So we made it fun to do it, which then came across in the way people went, oh, you're really genuine, and oh my God, I'm coming in and coding in this business that's now 700, 800 people, but the leader of this is here to talk to us about it.
Who won?
Clearly the CFO.
No. Like, Rod would do the big intro, but he didn't get scored. But like, Philip was pretty good.
Well, when I was saying that I was going to be chatting to you, someone said, "Oh my God, great storyteller," and I wanted to tap into that a little bit, because that is kind of what it comes down to in an induction, right? You're all kind of focusing on. I mean, I remember having sort of storyteller training when I was at the NZX, because I was in charge of market data. It does not get more boring than sometimes talking about that, right? And it was just like, how do you make that exciting? What do you do about it?
Oh, try small business accounting.
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, it's going to be beautiful, right? So that was the mantra. That's beautiful accounting or something. And I remember like we had Peter Teal came on. As an investor and an observer on the board and things, and one of his things was, why would you invest in this other than it's a great business, it's growing, and it's like he goes, well, all the hype money is going into the next Napster and this, and accounting's not very
sexy,
cool, so it's boring. You can build a monopoly, It's all these great things. So you sort of go, yeah, actually we're pretty cool then, It's like, this is cool. So how you tell that story, but it's about how you bring your customers' lives to the front, how you communicate the 3 or 4 things that you've done that are super magical that you have to hold as you're getting bigger, right? So it was like, totally started by not, if you think about Xero, not building what MYOB did in cloning it. It was like going and talking to to small businesses. What was the most amazing thing about the design? And you'd show people, here's the invoice screen, and they'd go, oh, and you go, no, it's the words. You never see debit, credit, journal. It's all written from the way they read. And then the magical bank rec with the smiley face that I even see people come up to me today and they go, I love it when I've done that, and they get the dopamine hit. And
it was literally like playing a game.
Like a game, and then uncovering the accounting partner channel, and you go and explain how that works to people. And because every time we'd hire a new CMO, they go, well, I'm going to do this and this, and we're going to be ABM marketing. You go, no, 90% comes out of that. We can call the business a year in advance of what that's doing on exactly what our number will be. So but bringing those stories to light, which sort of can disappear a bit where you've got dilution of the storytelling, if you like, where you've got more people that you're trying to get across. So it's really, really important to sort of keep that going through your business as you're
internally and
it.
externally, right? Because it's keeping your culture alive.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously externally, it's building the bigger marketing picture about who you are and why you're great.
And when you're talking to investors, it's got to be super sharp.
And authentic.
Because what an investor is weighing you as a founder when you come to see them. And we did this, I've done this with a number of businesses now, is like thinking about the story, what sets you apart. But what they're interested in is, what are the 2 or 3 things that you're looking to achieve in the next bit? And it's not because they're like, is that they want to, because then they want to see you in 3 or 4 months, and they want you to come in and go, we did those 2 things. And we did that at Xero when we went, God, what is it? We went from $40 share price. And everyone goes, oh, look at this, here's the hockey stick, and it's all so amazing, and it was so easy. And but like you're sitting there at like 40 times multiple, right? On your revenue. It's just you and Workday in the world who are most value. Every investor in the world, when you think about AI today, every investor in the world was like, SaaS is going to eat software, right? And there'll be one winner in every market, so there will only be one, and you had to be in it, right? So there's all this hype going on. You've got some investors who are kind of holding your feet to the fire going, well, you guys can't sell any stock or anything because, you're management. So you're kind of doing that, and then you sit there and then you watch the hype. We took capital and did great stuff and we're building the business for the next 3 or 4 years through whatever's coming, because we saw it coming. And then we went down to a $13 share price, right? From like 40 something, and you're sitting there and you've got like a New York hedge fund billionaire in the boardroom, and you go, how are you? And he goes, well, I was fetal position, when it went through 20, but I'm kind of okay now. I've been living with it for a few weeks, so it's kind of like, and you go, well, what do you got to do to get it back up, right? And people forget those times, and it was like, it was the storytelling internally around convincing everybody why we had a right to win. It was here's the 4 things we got to just smash out of the park and over the next sort of 16 weeks, right? Talking to the market and going, we'd go out and we'd see the Wellington and Boston, the BlackRocks, whoever big investors, and we'd go, we're doing this and this, and then we'd go back and see them again, and we'd go, that's done, and you go back and see them again, and 6 months later we just fly around the world 4 times a year, seeing everybody in Hong Kong, London, New York, Australia, New Zealand, and it's just like, and they just built the confidence up, and then you go, right, so this is where we're going in 5 years. When you play it all out, this is what it's going to look like, and the risk comes out of the business. We turn the knob eventually and become cash flow positive, and you'll see, a $500 million worth of cash drop out the bottom, which you're kind of seeing, multiple times now. And then they had the belief, and then everything sort of sailed up again. But if you didn't have that storytelling internally, the people that believed and knew exactly what they had to do to get there, the leadership in place to do that, and importantly, when you can take capital, take more than you can if it's a good deal, to get it across the line. That's the sort of stuff that really sets you apart. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on whether founders should take cash off the table or not along the way? Just because I know a lot of founders who just at the moment who are just in burnout, founder fatigue, just because they've been waiting for money for a long time and just haven't got it. And I kept, you can almost see that they need to keep pushing, but they just haven't got the legs to keep going. Yeah.
Oh my God, this is one of my biggest things that I sort of am passionate on, right? And and just to call it out, because I've been helping a number of sort of SaaS businesses, both around what they need to do around with AI, and I think a few of the businesses I've seen here can just use it as a propellant, right? Just to go even bigger. Some of the others who are slowing down are kind of like, well, what do we got to do to get to next? And we've been here, 7-10 years. And you think about Green Button and how long Scotty had been growing it before we got it to where it was. And it was a deep tech. We invented Kubernetes, spot market. I remember sitting in a room with Satya Nadella when he was running server and tools, and we'd written some kind of dashboard so we knew what was going on when we were spinning up machines to render a Pixar movie, right? And we're sitting in this room, and Scott Guthrie, who's now like kind of number 2 at Microsoft, he was in the room with them, and he goes, "Oh my God, so what did you just do?" We went, "Oh well, we just ran we broke it down, and we've spun some machines up in Ireland, and we spun some machines up here, and some in Australia, or actually Singapore it was, and we've processed it. It's all come back, and here's the little video and stuff." And he went, "Wow!" And I had to be 16 core machines, not the other ones you got. And he's like, he looked at us and goes, "Can we do that?" And he's goes, "I don't even know how many machines we've got, like that aren't running to be able to." Because and we showed them the thing, and then he's just like, "Wow!" And then I had the chance to have lunch with Barmer, which is another story for another podcast. But
the chance. Well, can you give us the too long didn't
read
Steve,
version? So Scotty, amazing founder. Amazing founders have faith in their leaders, and also Scotty was the thing. He goes, "Well, we all tried to get here, and we won the ISV of the year for supercomputing for Microsoft."
Yep.
So at their conference, 25,000 people in the Staples Arena, right? And it's like and we're sitting there, and it's like we're walking around with lanyards, and it's got first place kind of written on it, and we'd beaten Cisco or something, and Accenture or something like that, and you're just like, okay, this is kind of cool. And we're runner up in another one of them, so one of the best 4 in the world and something else, and and we're just like walking around this going, this is great, and we're trying to turn it into a marketing thing for us. And Scott goes, "Well, Viv, you did the marketing, you can go on stage and you can accept the trophy." And Dave, CTO, he goes, you're going on stage with Satya, you're doing a demo, right? And he goes, "And Chris, there's some lunch, you can go to the lunch." And I went, "Oh, okay." So, so generous. So generous,
really
right?
nice.
That's amazing that he's like...
He's so
the humility of doing that.
Yeah.
And then, so I went to the lunch.
What did he do, by the way? Did he have
Scott?
any?
Yeah, he had one of the things he was going to, which was a meeting with some of the senior execs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I went to the lunch, and there was this guy, Paul Muckleston, who was the New Zealand MD of Microsoft, and he's like, "Cool, okay." And I go, "Am I sitting here with you guys so I know someone?" Because I'm kind of like a quiet introvert.
Yeah.
Rather than someone who gets out in the press a lot and just sort of quietly get on with stuff. And it was, "Oh, no, you're sitting at this table up here." And I went and sat at this table, and they would there was 60 tables and lots of people there, and it's all the award winners and Microsoft people, and there was 3 or 4 people at this table that were talking to me, and this one guy called Krylov, and I didn't know who he was, but it turned out he ran server and tools, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then there was this big hubbub around the corner in the table, because we started eating, and everyone's milling around taking photos, and it's like Steve Barmer's come into the room, and it's like, "Oh wow," and everyone's shaking hands, and it's like, you go, "Oh God, it's like King or Queen's arrived or something." It's like, well, okay.
Was he CEO at the time?
Yeah. He was CEO, and he walks over, and then he sits down at the table next to me because there was an empty seat next to me, and I'm like, "Oh,
Jesus.
Okay. This is
Hello.
interesting. Oh, hi. Hi, I know who you are. This is really great. And so we were sitting there, he's like, and he just looks.
Number one partner here, mate. Yeah.
No. Well, the first thing he did was then, as he sat down in quite a hurry, because if you've ever seen him on some of those videos or whatever, or the basketball that you watch, I watched the NBA with him on the sidelines of the Clippers, right? Is he dropped his wallet on the floor because he was in such a rush, and he picks it up, and I said to Scotty afterwards, I go, I think he had enough money in his wallet just to buy our company. So then he sits there and he hits the table like he does, and he goes bang, bang, bangs it 3 times, and all his execs around the table will go quiet. And he's like, how do you take 30 cents of compute time that you pay for in our cloud, and then you sell it for $1.20, because we'd bundle it with software, and it was being used in New York by the the guys doing market mapping, and the drilling oil companies were using it, NASA or Boeing, right? And we're like, well, so I explained it to him, and he's like, oh, yeah. And he goes, well, I go, I don't think you get this cloud thing, man. You need to, you need everything in the cloud to keep everybody on it, using you, because you're the best in the world at like enterprise, and that's why we love you. And and he's like, I go, so you put Linux in your cloud, do this, because we're also talking to Amazon at the top level at the same stage, right? So then I came away from the lunch and I told Scott, and he just sat there and he just went, this is my one chance to pitch the company to the guy who makes every decision.
That is hilarious.
So then they were like, he goes, so he'd given me his card, so I just dropped him an email. Everybody was over my shoulder while I'm trying to, and he dropped him a little email. And what was it, 2 weeks later, after that note back, he reached out and he flew 10 of the team to Seattle to work with Sadia's server team to show them how to put Linux on the cloud.
Wow.
So you just sort of,
so good.
so you sit there and you go, oh my God! And when I meet founders and they tell, I met a leader of a tech company last week, and they went, I've done this and this in my career, and I went, slow down. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you got to celebrate those moments.
Do.
But when you have those opportunities and that momentum, telling those stories back inside the business is such a motivator to people. Yeah.
Hey Chris, where did you get your experience to be able to have these conversations like at Green Button and then Xero, and like where do you learn? So for a lot of people out there, so people listening to this podcast, they're trying to consume information, they're trying to grow their startup or their careers or whatever it may be, and so they're always like, what books do I read? ChatGPT, this, that, but like if you were to sort of boil it down and say my 10,000 hours has largely come from, what would that be?
Yeah, I'm like a lifetime learner, so I'm always consuming things. Like I started using Blinkist at one stage a while back, but so always trying to learn. I think I play in a space that I kind of have a natural talent for. Yeah. I'm always kind of curious about things, but I started out with like Arthur Young in the accounting and business consulting area, which is where Rod and I worked together for the first time. So it just gave you a structured way of thinking about things. I was involved in a lot of data and data manipulation and how you did all that side of things. Then had a career in kind of consulting into tech businesses, then a bit of investment banking where I was doing that. Learnt marketing when I came back to New Zealand and ran a big web team inside one of our biggest organisations in the country, Webifying it. So it was sort of just built up over time. So how do you learn it? That's such a
Because I imagine
a really good question, but it's
you would have been throwing some fires, right? Like you could sit there like when we delisted Xero from it was what you probably saw all the stuff in the press and what we were doing, that was just like next level, but it was having the commitment, knowing it was the right thing to do, right? Like what would New Zealand market was worth $80 billion versus Australia, $1.3 trillion US dollars, right? Yeah. If we're going to be a $30 billion company US one day, it's 30 billion Aussie now. Yeah. How does the market operate where you're 30% of what it is, right?
But the back to your question that you asked about how do you learn it, it's through experience. It's through experience. I've had some great mentors through my career who would just invite me into the room for things.
Yeah.
So you go, hey, I'm about to have this really difficult conversation with someone at a board level. Come in and do this. Just come in and take the notes or whatever with me. Or I'm about to meet a really important customer. Come in and do that. So it was having those moments and opportunities. People who'd come into Xero and it'd be like, oh my God, we've got one of the greatest marketing people in the world. Do you have a couple of moments to, spend with them and then, sit in the thing that we're organising? So it was just learning through that through my younger years as well. So it was really the mentorship with access.
Yeah.
This is kind of how I'd describe it.
Is there anything that you did maybe 10 years ago that you just wouldn't even do now?
Oh yeah, it's first one would be thinking that you had all the answers.
Yeah.
The other is learning pace. Is the other thing I learned really well from others around me, and it was it was kind of like, what are the fires that you have to put out immediately? What ones can you sleep with at night?
Yeah,
is kind of a thing. But then also being able to go like to the point of this isn't quite working in the business. This needs attention. Oh man, that's got to get sorted out. But actually, okay, I'm going to live with that, but I'm going to move on it at some stage. But I'll let it sit for 3 or 4 months and just see if it changes and give the person time to come through or whatever's got to happen with the product or whatever. So it was patience with determination, where you've made a commitment to make a call on something, but being able to slow it down is probably one of the biggest things I've learned is that.
Interesting. We talked about what you've recognised that has been great in founders and CEOs. What are the things, like if you're looking at young founders now and young CEOs, what are the things that you think, oh shit, they're constantly making that same mistake over and over again?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a common mistake that they make. For me, I think the one thing is having, if they have that ambition, right? The first thing would be having people around you that believe in it.
Yeah.
Probably the common thing would be that I see is getting some of the right people around the table to help them early on.
Yeah.
Right. So the ones that sort of succeed have probably done that. So they've got, what's the one big thing you've got to solve, or what's the one thing that, like we talked about, is my blind spot, or I'm passionate about, but I'm going to drive it for like 3 months and then get distracted. So I really need someone on that, right? And just being able to fill that position either through like an advisor or someone who has deep context in the business, and then going, what's the key first couple of hires that I want to get into my business, and just being quite crisp on what that person looks like, and hiring for what you need as the founder and how you feel about it, as opposed to because it's like an amazing shiny individual who's done this before other places. It doesn't mean they're going to have the context to learn what your place is to come through. So hiring potentially for talent or experience, as opposed to curiosity and the ability to learn super fast, because what you're building as a founder could be quite different to what they've ever operated in.
Yeah.
So I think it's trusting your gut, having people on your board who will back your gut and be close advisors. But yeah, there's no sort of common mistake that they make. One I could see is that when you're onto something that's really really incredible, is to go, holy hell, I should just take more capital earlier, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's do you want you want to own 20% of a $5 billion company, or do you want 20% of something that's it's going to slow grow and potentially get beaten?
Yeah. Do you think we've moved past New Zealand as a country the triple B, the BMW, the batch, and the boat? Do you think we've moved past that, or do you think there's still that mentality a bit there?
I think we've got two speeds going on. out there. I think what we've got is there's some businesses that, because of the lack of capital in the markets, right? And sometimes maybe the lack of opportunity to get the right people around you has meant that it's taking you 7 to 10 to 11 years to get to what in the US would have taken you 5. And that's really like, if I think about capital, it's like, what does capital give you as a founder? People go, oh, well, finance is my business plan. Well, that's great. If you're in the US and you're taking capital, because you'll get maybe 2 or 3 times turns on a multiple over there, so you're giving less away as a dilution. What do they get? They get the ability to make 1 or 2 bad hires. Right? Like your first VP of sales in the US or something didn't work. Okay,
that's
they got
guaranteed.
that.
That's always a bad hire, isn't
something
it?
you were building turns out to be the wrong thing, or it takes longer to deliver. Oh my God, our ICP for the customer was wrong. We should be big enterprise, not sitting in the middle of a hammer and an anvil in the mid-tier or something, right? But they have the ability to make mistakes and reorientate without necessarily having to go back for capital again. And that I see as that playing it with a straight bat, the one plan, is why you get to 7 years and you're pretty tired as a founder. But you imagine being that same founder who at year 4.5 or something could put that amazing team around them and cycle the right talent into them and offlay it to people to help them grow, right? And enough capital to be able to scale the go-to-market quickly before other people get there in front of you. That's the bit that's missing, and we've got a number of businesses that are kind of going through that stage. If I talk to some of the younger founders who are kind of what I see in like our top 8, their passion is off the charts. Some of them are like, oh my God, if I had patient long-term capital sitting there that was like local, I want to build the next Xero. I've got it in me to go 12, 13 years with the right people around me and create a multi-billion-dollar business in the sector, because I've got something unique worldwide, So we've got those there. But we've got the other side of it as well, right? So I don't see the young leaders who've kind of got it to the next stage and have got the energy behind them and the capital coming in. Boy, they want to smack it out of the park. Like no tomorrow. There's no BMW being mentioned. It's like ring the bell on the ASX, right?
PJ's private jets is there.
PJ.
I literally had a founder say to me, I'm looking forward to the PJ era, and I was like, Jesus. Dude,
did you have to fly commercial?
Fly. I was on a shipping container.
Exactly.
Hey, I want to come back to, we talked about this before, and then we got sidetracked when you mentioned Barmer, and I just went down that rabbit hole. But like taking cash off the table. So like for me, I know a lot of founders at the moment who are just like, fuck, I really wish I'd taken some off earlier, and now we're in a position where I'm not sure if I should or not. Like, what's your reckons on that?
The way I think about it is, if the investors coming in are comfortable with you being able to take some off the table, and you feel like it's at the point where the valuation is okay for you, right? So you're not, it's kind of like taking money, not diluting more than 15%, whatever. I'm going to do some secondary to get it down a bit. Do enough to take some of the pressure off, right? Because what people don't realise is when you build these businesses, and my beautiful partner of many decades and my 4 boys, one who is amazing at computer programming and maths and all kinds of things, and I said, oh my God, do you want to go to Stanford? And you walk across the road into, Google or chat, into one of the AI companies, and he's like, no, I saw what tech did to you. And he's going to be a college teacher, which is like, wow. Or like,
interesting.
Like Wens and stuff, and like what they went through with Green Button, right? What they went through with Xero. They're living it with you, because you're living it almost 24/7. You're traveling a lot, all those things. So taking money off the table that allows you to give you that the harmony at home and a little bit of the financial pressure dialed down for you and your partner and your family, just to go, okay, if it all falls over or whatever,
the house is paid off.
Oh, well, we've done enough to do that. That's why I'm really big on getting that capital in, because that's, the founder not burning out at 7 years, the ability to have time with your family, and those things are so important when you've built a good business, tell a great story, get great investors in, right? But yeah, take the money off to do that.
Yeah.
And then the other bit is you have to get comfortable with the fact that might mean that it doesn't turn into as much later down the track.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've seen people who don't sell any and on the founding teams, and people who do, and then the business becomes a $5 billion business, and what I could have,
Yeah.
But so my thing is, like, take the money that you need now, or you could do something better with for the quality of your life for the next 5 years.
And then make peace with it.
And make peace with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have enough stake in there that when it goes ballistic, that you're still going to celebrate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. What would you, like, if you were founding a team right now, like, is there any lessons that, like, absolutely, like, come to mind straight away that, like, I must think about this if I'm doing it again?
Early stage, I think now is the speed at which you can iterate your products and stuff. So technical co-founders and things who can play across a number of spaces. They're almost like they know the vision and where it's got to go, and they can architect it and create it. So I think that's really, really important. That would be quite different to the way I see people doing it. Doing it previously. Probably I'd be building a team where you got your core business that's driving. Like, people talk about SaaS being dead, right? And some of the stuff I've been involved in with the guys from TCV Excel. One of the guys who's set his own VC up, Tidemark now, out of TCV. All deep vertical SaaS, right?
Yeah.
And what David published last week, which is the playbook on, going from a system of record to the system of action. Which is interesting. At Lawview, we had this strategy written down, a system of action 3 years ago, right? Which is where you go from helping someone do work to doing the work for them, like the boring stuff for them, which is the AI. So that I'd almost be running a separate team that's spinning on the little rocket ships that you putting onto your core product as add-ons or whatever that are these modern tools that are going through. So I'd be building in a different way rather than just a kind of core monolithic kind of team of product and engineering would be different. And then your marketing is different. It'd be like,
Yeah, go-to-marketing changed so much. It's like It's funny, right? Because as a recruiter, I've been using Clay for 5 years, and like I was telling everyone how great Clay was, years ago.
You're so advanced, Troy.
Yeah, and then now, and I feel like everyone's now just talking about Clay. I'm like, fucking, and you give us recruiters a bad name.
Honestly,
Jeez.
you give yourself a great name. You keep it up.
What about yourself? Well, you must be seeing this as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting in terms of just the way you want to build out your team, but also that, I mean, look, my biggest competition right now is NASDAQ Technologies, and I'm sitting in Wellington, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, what I'm trying to do is focus on how we can do better, right? So these big, US listed companies and tech companies, which are doing great things for good exchanges, what we're trying to do is make sure that we're speaking to the ones that also may not be, to your point about even before with the VC, you've got your top guys you're looking after, you've got the top exchanges, and then you've got some little ones that are down the bottom, right? And how are they being innovative, and how are they using AI, and how are they looking at their risk management, and how are they doing things? And I think that's a piece which I feel that we can do as well, really well out of New Zealand.
Yeah, I think you can pick a niche and just build an island. So I remember sitting in one of the Xero board meetings, and it was kind of like, what's the island you can get onto where you could win all of those customers, right, and then own it, and you couldn't get pushed off, right? And that's a great business on a global scale, right? And we should do more of those, so smaller, faster, niche focused, right? And you just own it, and then you find the next thing.
Like a markets infrastructure is that people are not really aware of it, but they're talking about it. I mean, we know what's happening out there with crypto, and we know that's the people looking at more regulated markets. I'm building the infrastructure, and to your point about the architecture, I've got this incredible technical co-founder who's able to look at other things and go, I can actually make that happen. And I think that for us makes us a lot more agile, a lot more quick to market.
Yeah, and I can see more of our companies building for needs in Asia.
Yeah.
Like, there's some amazing opportunities there, incredible capital, different sales motion, faster adoption as opposed to all US. I see that coming out too.
Yeah, you're right. You're spot on.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. We've got about 5 minutes left. Did you have a couple of questions? Is there anything, or have we covered everything?
No, it was just more, I think for me, it's about the storytelling and the values-based stuff, which when I was talking to people about catching up with you, they were like, it's something that must be for you, I don't know, a bit of a brand. But, just going back to the comment that you made, and of course I'm going to come at this from a family perspective. I mean, we've got a lot of people that are sort of new to this, and you're reflecting, and I know that as well. I've spent 25 years in markets infrastructure, building out businesses, starting from 7, getting it to a point, right? There is always going to be an impact on your family. It can work well and not so well sometimes, but when you reflect and look back on it now, and you're going to have an incredible son teaching at college, what are the things that you are like, yeah, we're really... because I think a lot of people now aren't missing out on as much as perhaps you might have in the beginning. Like, what are the sort of advice when you're sitting down with these founders and you're coaching them? What are you saying?
You got to go hard at it. It is your life passion. You're going to think about it and where you're going to focus on. I think it's being able to find someone, some great people around you that you super trust, that you can lay some important things into, so you can focus on what you've got to do. I think you're always going to, people go, oh, how do you get the balance? But I think if you're building something from scratch, you're gonna have the, it's 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and some opportunity come up, and we had a big investor wanting to come in, so a couple of us were kind of like just jamming and putting everything together for the Tuesday to talk to them. Maybe that was a bit extreme. But
did you have that conversation with your partner though, to say, this is what's coming, this is what's going to be like for me over the next wee while?
No, because I didn't really anticipate what it was going to feel like.
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of,
because it's
that's a good point, actually.
This contagious energy that truly exceptional founders can create is almost like a drug, or that you're just on this journey and just delivering something so incredible. It's about, the advice I'd give is about the ability to put personal boundaries in, particularly if you're not the founder, around what what are my non-negotiables, what's the tax I'm not going to pay.
Yeah.
And getting clear on that, and having a conversation with your family around your non-negotiables, around those things, and how that's important, and how you're going to put energy back in. Yeah. And then, just being able to, just because it can be, you're just in this incredible...
Because you're on the receiving end of that. You must get the people that have been burned out that are
all my clients are calling me at 1 o'clock in the morning, and and I'm now getting, so because I'm telling I'm 10 years this month, and so a lot of my clients now are like 10 years, so now they're sort of a bit wiser, and then I get the 7 o'clock in the morning emails, versus the calls at midnight or whatever it was. But it's
but it is okay to put those personal boundaries in, right? Like, it's okay to, you're going to have, you weren't unhappy through the process. I think, I want...
Did I come out of it a bit burnt out, and the entire world joined me on my 1 year off in 2019 or 20 or whatever? Yeah. But would I do it again? But have better boundaries and certain things I did to manage and maintain myself? Yes. Because did I see some of the seasoned international execs who might come in have that already, or like I talked about, they know, hey, we've gone through 100 million, I'm tapping out. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm taking my 3 months off, and then I'm finding my next thing, So it's just because we'd never seen that in New Zealand before, the scale we ran at, how hard we ran it, the success we had.
And we didn't have the luxury of saying there's another 100 million business waiting around the corner for me to jump into, right?
Well, that was the big thing when we tried to bring people from offshore in. They go, well, what if there's a culture mismatch and I've brought my family down here, there's nowhere for me to go to. So it was quite hard to get the superstars to want to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I really love that. What's the tax that I'm not prepared to pay? I'm going to try that with my IRD meeting later this week.
Yeah.
A couple of rapid fire questions that you just have to give me the first thing that sort of pops into your mind. What's one book that you recommend to every founder?
It's the Hard Things what's it called?
The Hard Things About Hard Things.
Yeah, the Hard Things About Hard Things
Yeah.
is one that Ross at Xero got me to read, and it was like, oh yeah, it was everything I've had a founder ring up and go, shit, what do I do when this happens? That was in that book.
Have you read that book?
No, I'm going to read it now.
Yeah.
Really good, really good.
Yeah.
What's the most underrated trait in a great leader?
And the underrated trait in a great leader, listening.
Listening. Yeah,
Listening.
yeah, I agree. What's one lesson that you've had to learn the hard way?
That I do enjoy being on things like podcasts, or I had a chance to keynote for Clay Christensen, who was my hero from Harvard, the entrepreneur's dilemma and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not something that I'm exceptional at, and that people's opinion of you doesn't really matter.
100%.
At the end, did you feel like you did something good? And then the other thing that I learned was that you should not do a press interview with the MBR from your car while you're driving into work.
This is with Chris Keel.
and use the word ass in a sentence, and then have it quoted during the day in the paper, and then have a meeting with the comms and your founder about how that might have happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you whoops.
Yeah, well, I can guarantee you now the title in this podcast is going to be something about us.
No, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that.
What's a daily habit or ritual that you swear by?
Wake up in the morning, drink a glass of water.
Yeah, nice. In one sentence, what drives you?
Seeing other people be hugely successful has been massively motivating for me. So that really drives me around seeing people happy in what they're doing. It's like whether it's in a relationship, a friendship, what they're doing at work.
Oh, that's lovely. And lastly, what's next?
Who knows? It's like I'm thinking about, do I go into one of these organisations that are getting me to advise and actually roll my sleeves up and help drive it forward?
Yep.
Around that.
Do you miss that? Do you miss like when you're advising being in the detail, or?
It's more about taking everything you've learnt and tying a bow around it at the stage I'm at, and showing that you can super accelerate something, because I see like those businesses we were talking about that where the founders got to a certain stage and you go, we could get you the outcome that you've always wanted, and just prove that playbook works, and then take that back into all those other businesses that are out there.
Yeah.
So that's that around that side of things. Keeping pushing on what the great stuff we're doing with simplicity, and then some of the things around government that I'm working on with getting more capital into late stage capital, and also I'm deeply passionate about government becoming really superheroes of AI for government, and us being able to sell it overseas to create something for Wellington. So I've been really kind of pushing what we can do with that, because I can see what happens when 3 agencies get round a problem, whether it's a child having difficulties or whatever, they solve it. But when it's all broken up like this, it's just a huge morass in New Zealand, and I reckon we could do something really cool.
I love that. I'd love to see the government get behind tech, AI.
Yeah.
I think New Zealand has such an opportunity to really reinvent itself now and go for it. Well, not reinvent itself per se, like what we were talking about before the show, not to keep changing, but to just go after a strategy, right? And really just be known for something again.
Yeah, like totally. Just if the government could get all the things that help us to be tailwinds behind 5 things, like broad 5 things. And, it's going to be fintech, or it's going to be, space, it's whatever, agri, where we're going. But it's not, shipping biscuits to somewhere overseas. It's like, these things are what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It's so powerful for a country. Someone told me I had to catch up with Rowan.
Have you met Rowan?
Yeah, but they said I needed to talk to him about it. And I was like, how do I reach out? Do I go, I'm the most successful investor who hasn't written a book, and no one knows who they are, or something like that. But it was.
I think you just got to write a foreword for his book.
Write a foreword, yeah. There you go. So my thing was kind of like, so you did. I love basketball and NBA, right?
Yeah.
And Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls and the three-peat. So it was like I did. We got green button across the line, which was incredible the day that we found out. Satya took over 6. It was his first M&A deal or after he took over, right? And then Xero, and that was great. And then I had a bit of a break. I went, I'd love to do a three-peat. And then I met Sam and Tim and a couple of the team in Tauranga, and I went, oh my God, you've got customers that you don't even deserve at this stage of growth. You've got Telstra, you've got an international, social network. You've got, oh my God, this is the platform for legal.
Yeah.
Go, And I went, maybe I could take one from here to here. So it was kind of like, done the three-peat. So the next thing is going to be, it'll be interesting what it's going to look like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rowan will email me now once a week and say, how's the numbers on this podcast versus Chris's podcast?
Yeah. Oh, no. I don't make very many investments, so that's probably why I do okay.
We look forward to seeing, what's next for you.
Well, Troy, as you know, I've just taken the CEO role at Arlo.
And so what's Arlo?
So Arlo is a Wellington-based global solution for training management software, and its opportunity to be the best in the world vertical SaaS for that space is exceptional. So I just can't wait to get in there and help the team smash it out of the park.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And really, really love the opportunity. Yeah.
Wow, Adrian, that was a really cool conversation. I think I've done, how many episodes have I done now, Jono? 90 episodes now, and there's few where I just lose myself in the conversation. Like, you just ask a question and the next minute you're in a conversation, and I didn't think I looked at my notes once in that.
No.
And they're my favourite chats on the podcast is when you're just chatting to people who have these amazing stories and have been in these cool situations, and you're just listening to the whole time thinking, shit, I'd listen to this podcast when I'm walking my dog,
That's what I was thinking too. Really understated guy, right, with such a huge amount of knowledge. I loved how he was incredibly, well, when I'd spoken to, I think I said that as well, when someone had said that he was coming on, they were like, he is such a great storyteller, which I thought was a quite cool thing to say about someone. Even better when somebody says it about you and you're not saying it about yourself, right? Yeah. But equally, really values-based and really understood how, I think he probably thought that was just really normal, but that's not. So the fact he's walking alongside some of our up-and-coming founders and guiding them on their next journey and doing that and giving back, there's some really lucky people that are out there, aren't they?
100%. And that's what I kind of asked him. I was like, how do you pick up this knowledge? Because, we meet people on podcasts that are like at their real early stage or in their late stage, like Chris, and have had so many success stories and have collided with so many impressive things. But how the hell do you get there? And I think I really like what he said, there's no book, there's no one thing. It's just, you got to do the time, you've got to go in and you've got to find these opportunities and grow in them, and just don't be scared to make mistakes, and don't be scared to say yes and jump into the deep end and give it a go, because we just don't know.
And actually, that's about creating good people around you. Yeah. And actually, I know that I most definitely been a bit of a control freak when it's been going through the process of building a company and sitting on loads of interviews with all the tech guys and stuff, because I wanted them to know a bit more about the journey and the story. So I'm probably in many ways like that. I like the story. So they go, I want to come and work for this company. Yeah. But equally, when do you let that go and allow that to be the company that sort of scales, and actually make sure that you're kind of taking people internally on the journey and selling the vision and selling the, he's talking a lot about having that real ambition and drive. Yeah. And I see that though when when I was at Electrify with some of these founders, and when I'm here in Wellington talking to people, you must see it too. There's a load of ambition, but it's how we kind of wrap our arms around this ambition and help people along the way. And I think we're doing it here, by getting people to tell their story. But if there's people out there that are listening and they don't know how to get themselves to that point and have somebody wrap their arms around you and go on a journey, hopefully you've taken away something from that chat with Chris today.
And I think a lot of founders and CEOs listening to the podcast, or in their earlier days of their roles, don't realise that these people have people like Chris around them, that it is, because it's such a lonely role, the
So
founder or the
lonely.
CEO, right? Especially when you're going through hard shit, right? And you have to be that smiling clown, just pretending everything's okay, and you can't talk to anyone, and you don't really want to talk to your board about it because there's some things that you just want to vent and not have to have any judgment about, right? And so it's kind of good to have those people around you that you can just ultimately trust. And I think we as Kiwis don't bring those people around us quick enough. And I really like what Chris said about like think about the people you want around you earlier versus
Where would
later.
you go? Where would you go to find, if you're a founder and you're looking for that, where would you go? Because I know that Serge and myself, and I know Chris has helped out as well. We've got the startup founder thing, which we have in Wellington, and now it's in Auckland. But where? And by the way, if anyone wants to be part of that, reach out to myself or Serge. But where else have you? Where do you point people?
I always say that you should definitely go to that. You should
Yeah.
go and like I know there's a few, like Chris talked about one that James does on Fridays. I know there's a few guys that meet together at a pub.
Caffeine daily, caffeine
Caffeine
they've
daily,
done that,
you know, yeah, like the VCs have networking, you know, things that you get together. Because I really think it is around that you need people that you both can tell, you know, your problems or your success stories to, but you need that trust to be able to say, I can tell you anything, you know, like rather than, you know, when founders to get together and then they, how big's your dick? My dick's huge, you know, blah, 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 you know, my ARR's this big and whatever, you know, like you don't want that. You want to be able to just go, oh, fuck, everything's shit because of this, you know, and for them to go, yeah, same, you know, and then.
That's such a good point. I remember when I had come over here, the global COO of VoxSmart, somebody put me in touch with a whole lot of COOs here in Wellington, and there was about 6 of us. And 1 gin in, we're like, you know, everything's going well. 3 gins in,
No,
we were like, oh, the shit was the same, right?
Yeah.
And we all just kind of like unloaded and felt so much better about it when we left. No, in many ways, what we're trying to do is make sure that we're bringing the real people to the seat, right?
I
And
just want real
what we got
conversations.
yeah.
And I want, like for me, it's almost like, you know, that I hate the saying, but I love the saying, the pull the kimono back a little bit, you know, like and see what's behind the kimono, because you want to know what really is. Like I believe the relationship I have with founders now, you know, we talked about before, they'll call me, you know, like late at night, and sometimes not even to recruit, but they know that they can trust that they can vent to me and I'll listen because I've heard that and I've got that 10,000 hours of different startups, and I won't say anything, you know, and I'll just be there for them to listen. And so for me, it is that, you know, like I want this podcast to be that. It's almost like if you are going through something, you can turn us on and hear it, that everything's not awesome everywhere. You know, like Chris spoke about it before, you know, like Xero was at $40 and then they dropped down to $12 and then you've got a billionaire in your boardroom, you know.
Saying it's going fetal.
Yeah, and like that stress,
is
unfathomable, you know, like, so yeah, it's that's what I hope it is. And, you know, 90 episodes in now, it's actually, you know what we should do? We should do a live episode for the 100th. We should go live. Yeah, go live and do an event somewhere and do a live one and have a bit of a party for the 100th. What do you reckon about that, Jono? He's not in the room, is he?
No, he's here.
Yeah.
Jono wouldn't.
What do you reckon, Jono? 100th episode live? Could you make that work?
That's ambitious.
Could you make it work?
Yes.
He's saying
Jono
yes.
can make anything work.
He's saying yes. He said that's ambitious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Can we get me, you, and Serge together at the same time, though?
That's going to be the ambitious.
That will be the ambitious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always free. Clearly.
I'm pretty much always free now because my team doesn't want me back, and so you're on the. It's only easy to get you because you're on the floor below us.
Yeah, look, okay. If you keep repeating it, I'm just not going to come upstairs.
I didn't say you're easy. I said it's easy to get you. All right, we better go before we say anything. Anything worse. Great episode. Thanks for joining in, Adrian.
Thanks. Good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers. See you next time.